"Don't bother coming to the reunion this year, Sienna. You've embarrassed this family enough." My mother's voice carried that particular tone she reserved for delivering verdicts. Cold, final, designed to make you feel small. I stood in my tiny apartment kitchen, phone pressed against my ear, watching rain streak down the window. The family reunion was 3 months away. The same reunion where my cousins would showcase their doctor and lawyer lives, while I'd have to explain why I was still struggling at 32. "Mom," I just thought. "Everyone's asking questions, Sienna, about your choices, your lifestyle. It reflects poorly on all of us." My lifestyle? She meant my failed marriage 2 years ago, my decision to leave my accounting job to pursue photography, my small apartment instead of the house she thought I should own by now. "I understand," I said quietly. "Good, I'll tell everyone you're busy with work. That sounds better than the truth." She hung up before I could respond. I stared at my phone, then at the camera equipment scattered across my coffee table. Every lens, every light stand represented a dream my family considered foolish. What she didn't know was that her phone call had just changed everything. My name is Sienna Caldwell, and for 32 years I'd been trying to earn my mother's approval. It never came. My older brother, Kenneth, was the golden child. Doctor, beautiful home, perfect wife, 2 accomplished kids. He'd followed the family blueprint exactly. My younger sister, Adriana, had married into old money. She hosted charity galas and posted pictures of her mansion on social media. Another family success story. Then there was me, the middle child who'd married young, divorced quickly, and traded her stable career for passion. The embarrassment. I'd been a financial analyst for 7 years. Good salary, benefits, retirement plan, everything my family valued. But every day felt like drowning. I'd always loved photography, capturing moments that told stories without words. After my divorce from Trevor, I'd finally found courage to change careers. I sold wedding photos on weekends while working part-time at a camera shop. It barely paid bills, but I was building something real. My family saw only failure. 3 months ago, I'd submitted my work to the Global Photography Excellence Awards, a competition that attracted thousands of entries worldwide. I'd sent my portfolio, a collection called Invisible Women, featuring ordinary women in extraordinary moments of strength. I'd told no one. The morning after my mother's call, I received an email that made my hands shake. "Dear Ms. Caldwell, we are pleased to inform you that your portfolio, Invisible Women, has been selected as a finalist for the Global Photography Excellence Awards. The final ceremony will be broadcast live on National Arts Network in 12 weeks. Finalist? Out of 8,000 entries worldwide, I was one of 5 finalists. The prize was $50,000 and a featured exhibition in the Metropolitan Gallery. But more than that, the winner would be interviewed on major networks, featured in photography magazines, and offered contracted work with leading publications. My heart raced as I read the requirements. Finalists needed to prepare a presentation about their work. The ceremony would include a documentary segment about each finalist's journey. They wanted to film me, interview me, tell my story. I thought immediately of the family reunion, scheduled for the same weekend as the awards ceremony. The same reunion I'd been uninvited from because I was an embarrassment. A slow smile spread across my face. I wouldn't tell my family. I'd let them have their reunion, celebrating their conventional successes while looking down on my choices. And I'd be on national television, competing for the most prestigious photography award in the country. I spent the next week preparing my presentation while keeping everything secret. The awards committee sent a film crew to interview me about my journey. "Tell us about Invisible Women," the interviewer asked, camera rolling in my small apartment. "What inspired this collection?" I thought carefully before answering. I wanted to capture women whose society overlooks, the grocery store cashier who's also putting herself through nursing school, the elderly woman who volunteers at the library every day, the single mother working 3 jobs. These women have incredible strength, but nobody sees them as exceptional. Is there a personal connection to this theme? I paused. I've spent my life being seen as not enough, not successful enough, not accomplished enough, not impressive enough. I realized many women feel invisible because they don't fit someone else's definition of success. My work celebrates them. The interviewer nodded, making notes. We understand you left a stable career to pursue photography. That must have been difficult. My family certainly thought so, I said honestly. They saw it as failure. I saw it as finally choosing myself. That clip would make the documentary. My family would hear those words on national television. I smiled at the thought. 6 weeks before the ceremony, I received a call from the awards program director. Sienna, the committee is particularly moved by your story. We'd like to feature you prominently in the documentary segment. Your journey represents exactly what this award celebrates: courage to pursue authentic artistic vision despite obstacles. Thank you, I managed, still processing. We'll need to film more footage, your workspace, your process, and we'd like to interview people who know you. Friends, family members who can speak to your journey. My stomach dropped. Family members. If possible, it adds depth to the story, but it's not required if that's uncomfortable. I'll provide contacts for friends, I said quickly. My family relationship is complicated. We understand, whatever you're comfortable with. After the call, I sat in silence. Part of me wanted to invite my mother, to say, I'm a finalist for a major award. Maybe you were wrong about me. But I remembered her tone, the dismissal, the shame she felt about my choices. No, she'd made her decision, I'd made mine. My best friend, Chloe, knew everything. She'd been supportive through my divorce, my career change, my struggles. You're not going to tell them, she asked when I explained. They uninvited me from the reunion, Chloe, because I embarrassed them. But if you win, if I win, they'll see it on TV like everyone else. 4 weeks before the ceremony, promotional materials started appearing. The awards show was prestigious enough to generate media attention. Articles listed the finalists, featuring small bios. Sienna Caldwell, 32, left her career in finance to pursue photography full-time. Her portfolio, Invisible Women, celebrates the quiet strength of ordinary women, often overlooked by society. The article included one of my photos, an elderly woman reading to children at a library, light streaming through windows behind her. The strength and gentleness in her expression told a story without words. I shared the article on my small social media following. Congratulations poured in from photographer friends, former colleagues, even people I barely knew. But nothing from my family. Kenneth, Adriana, and my mother weren't connected to my social media anymore. After the divorce, they distanced themselves from my drama. Chloe posted about it constantly, proud and excited. My best friend is competing on national television for the biggest photography award in the country. Her posts got shared. More people saw my work. Some even reached out saying the images moved them, made them feel seen. This was what I'd been chasing. Not money or status, but the feeling of creating something meaningful. 3 weeks out, the awards program sent my itinerary. The ceremony would be broadcast live on Saturday evening, the same Saturday as the family reunion. I imagined my family gathered at Kenneth's house. He always hosted. His home was perfect for entertaining, spacious, and elegant. They'd have catered food, expensive wine, impressive conversations about their impressive lives. And at some point during the evening, someone would turn on the television. Maybe during dinner, maybe after, but they'd see. The thought filled me with equal parts satisfaction and nervousness. This wasn't about revenge. Not really. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't want them to realize they'd been wrong about me. My phone rang. Unknown number. Hello. Sienna Caldwell. This is Vanessa Hunt from Style and Substance magazine. We're doing a feature on the Global Photography Excellence Awards finalists. Would you have time for an interview? A major magazine, wanting to interview me. Yes, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I'd be honored. Wonderful. We're particularly interested in your journey. Leaving finance for art is a compelling story, and your work speaks to so many women who feel unseen. After scheduling the interview, I sat back and let reality sink in. This was happening. This was really happening. 2 weeks before the ceremony, I attended a finalist reception in the city. All 5 finalists met with the judges, program directors, and media representatives. The other finalists were impressive. A landscape photographer who documented climate change across 6 continents. A portrait artist who photographed refugees rebuilding their lives. A photojournalist who'd captured revolution in 3 countries. And me, the woman who photographed ordinary people in ordinary moments. Your work is powerful precisely because it's accessible, one judge told me during the reception. You make people see beauty in everyday life. That's harder than it sounds. The Style and Substance magazine interview happened that evening. The reporter asked thoughtful questions about my process, my inspiration, my journey. You left a lucrative career, she observed. That took courage. How did your family react? I chose my words carefully. They thought I was making a mistake. They valued stability over passion. Do they see your success differently now? They don't know about this competition, I admitted. We're not close anymore. The reporter's eyes widened slightly. They don't know you're a finalist. No, and they won't until the ceremony airs. She leaned forward, clearly intrigued. That's quite a story within the story. 1 week before the ceremony, everything intensified. The documentary crew wanted final footage. Style and Substance magazine published their feature. The article was titled, Finding Your Frame, How Sienna Caldwell Chose Art Over Approval. It detailed my journey, including the estrangement from my family. Caldwell's family considered her career change a failure, the article stated. But her work celebrates exactly what they couldn't see, the value in choosing authenticity over convention. Chloe called immediately. Have you seen the article? It's everywhere. People are sharing it like crazy. I read the comments. Hundreds of people relating to feeling unsupported by family. Women who'd chosen unconventional paths and faced similar judgment. Your story matters to people, Chloe said. Regardless of whether you win, you've already made an impact. But I wanted to win, not just for the money or the exhibition. I wanted to prove that choosing myself hadn't been a mistake. That evening, I practiced my presentation one more time. 7 minutes to explain my work, my vision, my journey. I thought about my mother's words. You've embarrassed this family enough. Soon, she'd see exactly what that embarrassment had accomplished. The morning of the ceremony, I woke early in my hotel room. The awards program had flown all finalists to the city, putting us up in a nice hotel near the venue. My phone showed dozens of messages from photographer friends, former colleagues, even people I'd gone to school with years ago. Everyone wishing me luck. Still nothing from my family. The ceremony started at 7. By now, the reunion at Kenneth's house would be in full swing. I imagined them laughing, eating, celebrating their perfect lives. A knock at my door interrupted my thoughts. Ms. Caldwell, hair and makeup is ready for you. The next few hours passed in a blur. Professional styling, final presentation rehearsals, last-minute interviews. The other finalists and I gathered backstage, all of us nervous and excited. Good luck, the landscape photographer said, shaking my hand. Your work is beautiful. Yours too, I replied sincerely. At 6:30, the audience began filling the auditorium. The ceremony would be broadcast live on National Arts Network, streaming simultaneously online. Millions of potential viewers, including, possibly, my family. I adjusted my dress, simple but elegant, and waited for my name to be called. The ceremony began exactly at 7. The host welcomed the audience, explained the significance of the Global Photography Excellence Awards, and introduced the 5 finalists. When my name was called, I walked onto the stage, smiled at the applauding audience, and took my designated seat. Cameras swept across our faces, broadcasting live to the nation. Each finalist will present their work, the host explained. Then our distinguished judges will announce the winner, but first, let's learn about their journeys. The documentary segment began. Each finalist's story played on massive screens flanking the stage. The climate photographer's dangerous expeditions. The refugee portrait artist's emotional connections. The photojournalist's war zone experiences. Then came mine. The screen showed my tiny apartment, my camera equipment, my photographs lining the walls. My voice narrated over the images. I spent years doing what my family expected. Safe job. Traditional path. But I felt invisible myself. When I finally chose photography, I realized I wanted to capture other invisible women. The ones working quietly, living authentically, making a difference without recognition. The footage showed me photographing the library volunteer, the nursing student cashier, the exhausted mother. Each woman's face told a story of quiet strength. Then came the interview clip about my family. They saw it as failure. I saw it as finally choosing myself. At Kenneth's house, the reunion was in full swing. 25 family members crowded his elegant living room and dining area. Adults mingled with wine glasses while children played in the finished basement. My mother, Veronica, held court in the kitchen, as she always did at family gatherings. At 61, she maintained perfect posture and perfect standards. "Where's Sienna this year?" someone asked. "Working," Veronica replied smoothly, "very busy with her projects." Kenneth's wife, Diane, exchanged a glance with Adriana. They knew the truth, that Sienna had been uninvited, but said nothing. "She's still doing that photography thing?" Kenneth asked, his tone suggesting it wasn't real work. "She'll figure it out eventually," Veronica said, dismissing the subject. In the living room, someone turned on the television. "The Global Photography Excellence Awards are about to start. Anyone interested?" "Boring," one cousin declared, reaching for the remote. "Wait, I like photography," Kenneth's teenage daughter, Bailey, protested. "Can we watch for a minute?" The adults indulged her, leaving the broadcast on while they continued conversations. Most paid little attention as the host introduced the finalists. Until Bailey suddenly shouted, "Wait, that's Aunt Sienna." The living room went silent. Every head turned toward the television. There I was in high definition, sitting on stage among the finalists. Professional styling, elegant dress, confident smile. Nothing like the struggling photographer they imagined. "That can't be," Kenneth started. "SHH," Bailey commanded, turning up the volume. The documentary segment continued, showing my work, my apartment, my journey. The family watched in stunned silence as I explained choosing authenticity over approval. When the clip about family played, they saw it as failure. I saw it as finally choosing myself. Veronica's face went pale. "She's talking about us," Adriana whispered. The documentary explained the competition's significance. $50,000, Metropolitan Gallery exhibition, 8,000 entries worldwide, 5 finalists. "This is the most prestigious photography award in the country," the narrator intoned. "These 5 artists represent the best of contemporary photography." Kenneth pulled out his phone, frantically searching. Within seconds, he found the Style and Substance magazine article. "There's a whole feature about her, published last week." He started reading aloud. The family gathered around, passing the phone between them, reading about my journey, my success, my estrangement from the family who thought I'd failed. "Caldwell's family considered her career change a failure," Kenneth read, "but her work celebrates exactly what they couldn't see." Veronica sank onto the couch, staring at the television. Back at the ceremony, the presentations began. Each finalist had 7 minutes to discuss their work, their vision, their artistic philosophy. The climate photographer went first, showing breathtaking images of melting glaciers and displaced wildlife, powerful and urgent. The refugee portrait artist followed, sharing intimate photographs of families rebuilding after losing everything, beautiful and heartbreaking. The photojournalist presented images from conflict zones, capturing humanity in impossible circumstances. Brave and important. Then came my turn. I stood at the podium, looking out at the audience and the cameras broadcasting to millions. I thought of my family watching, finally seeing what I'd built. Invisible Women began as a personal project, I started. But it became something larger, a celebration of ordinary strength. We're taught to admire extraordinary achievements. But what about the woman who gets up every morning and tries again despite exhaustion? What about the grandmother who volunteers because she believes in community? What about the mother who works 3 jobs to give her kids opportunities? The screens showed my photographs. Each image captured quiet dignity, unnoticed heroism, everyday grace. These women aren't celebrated in magazines or news programs, but they're extraordinary. They're just invisible until someone decides to look. My voice strengthened. I chose this work because I felt invisible myself, invisible to people who only valued certain definitions of success. But choosing to be seen on my own terms, not someone else's, was the most important decision I ever made. The audience applauded as I finished. I returned to my seat, heart pounding, knowing my family had heard every word. At Kenneth's house, uncomfortable silence filled the living room. "She's actually really talented," Bailey said quietly. "Those photos are amazing." No one responded. The adults sat frozen, processing what they'd witnessed. The television showed judges deliberating. Commercial break. Then the host returned. "Before we announce the winner, I want to acknowledge how personal this competition is. These artists don't just take pictures. They share pieces of themselves, their perspectives, their truths." The camera focused on each finalist. When it reached me, I smiled calmly. The same calm I'd felt when my mother uninvited me from the reunion. "The judges have made their decision," the host continued. "The winner of this year's Global Photography Excellence Awards is..." Time seemed to slow. I gripped the armrest, barely breathing. "Sienna Caldwell, for her portfolio Invisible Women." The words took a moment to register. Then the audience erupted. The other finalists stood, applauding genuinely. The landscape photographer hugged me. The portrait artist shook my hand. I walked to the podium in a daze, accepting the trophy, the ceremonial check, barely processing the host's congratulations. At Kenneth's house, chaos erupted. "She won," Bailey screamed, jumping up and down. "Aunt Sienna won." $50,000. Metropolitan Gallery exhibition, featured in every major photography publication. Network interviews scheduled. The television showed me giving my acceptance speech, thanking my supporters, mentioning Chloe by name, carefully not mentioning my family. "This award represents more than artistic recognition," I said into the microphone, my voice steady despite my shaking hands. "It represents choosing yourself even when others don't understand. It represents finding value in what society overlooks. It represents being visible on your own terms." The audience stood, applauding. The camera captured my genuine emotion as reality sank in. Veronica finally found her voice. "We need to call her." "And say what?" Adriana asked quietly. "Congratulations on succeeding after we told you you'd failed." Kenneth was still reading articles on his phone. "She's going to be interviewed on morning shows next week. There's a documentary series being developed about emerging artists featuring her. A major gallery in California wants to host her work." "She did this all without telling us," Diane observed. "She knew about the reunion. She knew we'd be watching TV." The implication hung in the air. Sienna had planned this. She'd let them dismiss her while building something they'd have to acknowledge. After the ceremony, I was swept into a whirlwind of interviews, photographs, and congratulations. Program directors explained next steps. Journalists asked for statements. Other attendees wanted to discuss my work. My phone buzzed constantly. Chloe had called 6 times, texted 12 more. Friends from everywhere were reaching out. Social media was exploding with notifications. And then I saw them. 3 calls from Kenneth, 2 from Adriana, 5 texts from my mother. I didn't open them, not yet. Ms. Caldwell, a producer approached. Good Morning America wants you on Monday, and we've had 3 other major networks request interviews. Your story is resonating with people. That night back in my hotel room, I finally let myself cry. Not from sadness, but from overwhelming relief. Years of doubt, of wondering if I'd made the right choice, of feeling like a failure, it all released. I'd proven them wrong. More importantly, I'd proven myself right. My phone rang again. My mother. I stared at the screen, watching it ring, remembering her words. You've embarrassed this family enough. I answered. Sienna, her voice was different, smaller. We all saw. I know, I said simply. Why didn't you tell us? The question was almost funny. You uninvited me from the reunion, Mom, because I embarrass you. Silence, then quietly, I was wrong. Those 3 words, I was wrong, came from a woman who rarely admitted fault, but they weren't enough, not yet. You've been wrong for 2 years, I replied, keeping my voice calm. Every time you dismissed my work, every time you compared me to Kenneth and Adriana, every time you made me feel like choosing passion over convention was a character flaw. I didn't understand, she said. I didn't see what you were building. Because you weren't looking. None of you were. You decided I'd failed and nothing I did could change your mind. I heard voices in the background. The reunion was still happening, but I imagined the mood had shifted dramatically. Everyone here wants to congratulate you, Veronica said. Kenneth, Adriana, everyone, they're so proud. Now they're proud. When I needed support, they were embarrassed. Sienna, please, can we talk about this? Can you come by tomorrow? I thought about it. Part of me wanted to refuse, to let them sit with their mistake, but I was tired of being angry. I'm flying back Monday morning. I have media appearances all week, but I'll come to dinner next Saturday, all of you, and we're going to have an honest conversation about how you've treated me. Of course, whatever you want. After hanging up, I finally read the texts. Kenneth's were apologetic. Adriana's were congratulatory but carefully worded. My mother's were desperate attempts at connection. None of it felt satisfying, but it was a start. Monday morning's Good Morning America interview was surreal. Sitting on a famous set, discussing my work with hosts who'd actually studied my portfolio. Your acceptance speech was powerful, the host said. Choosing yourself even when others don't understand. That resonated with millions of viewers. I think many people feel pressure to follow conventional paths, I replied. Especially women. We're taught that certain choices, marriage, stability, traditional success, are the only valid options. When we choose differently, we're seen as failures. Your family didn't support your career change initially. How did that affect you? I'd known this question was coming. It hurt, but it also clarified things. I was seeking approval from people who fundamentally didn't understand what mattered to me. Winning this award isn't about proving them wrong. It's about validating my own choices. The interview aired to millions. By noon, I was trending on social media. The phrase, choosing yourself, became a hashtag. Women everywhere shared stories of unsupportive families, conventional pressure, choosing passion over approval. My phone never stopped buzzing. Interview requests, gallery inquiries, collaboration proposals. The Metropolitan Gallery wanted to schedule my exhibition for 3 months out. A publisher wanted to discuss a photography book. Everything I dreamed of was materializing, but it felt incomplete, without resolution with my family. That Saturday, I drove to Kenneth's house for dinner. My stomach churned with nerves despite my triumph. Everyone was there. Kenneth and Diane, Adriana and her husband Preston, my mother, various cousins and their families, the same group that had gathered for the reunion. But the energy was completely different. Sienna, Bailey rushed to hug me first. You're famous. Everyone at school saw you on TV. The adults approached more carefully. Kenneth shook my hand formally. Congratulations, truly, your work is remarkable. Adriana hugged me, whispering, I'm sorry, I should have supported you. My mother waited until we were alone in Kenneth's kitchen. She looked older somehow, tired. "I've been thinking all week about what I said to you," she began. "About embarrassing the family, about not coming to the reunion." I waited, letting her continue. "I was cruel and wrong. I didn't see your talent because I was too focused on my definition of success. I hurt you, and I'm sorry." "Why did my choices threaten you so much?" I asked. "Why couldn't you just let me find my own path?" She considered this carefully. "Because I was afraid for you. I grew up without security. I wanted my children to have stability, safety. When you left your job, I saw you throwing away everything I'd worked to give you." "But it wasn't yours to give," I said gently. "It was my life, my choice, and I needed you to trust me." Over dinner, the family asked careful questions about my work, my plans, my upcoming exhibition. The conversation felt stiff, like everyone was performing politeness. Bailey was the only one genuinely excited, asking about my process, my equipment, my favorite photographs. "Could you teach me?" she asked. "I want to learn photography." "I'd love that," I replied, meaning it. After dinner, Kenneth pulled me aside. "I read the magazine article about us not supporting you, about you feeling invisible." "It was the truth," I said. "I know. And I'm ashamed." He paused. "I thought I was being practical, warning you about reality, but I was just being judgmental." "You were," I agreed. "You all were, but I forgive you. I just need you to understand something." He nodded, listening. "I didn't win that award despite leaving my finance career. I won because I left it, because I chose to do meaningful work instead of safe work. That choice was right for me, even if you couldn't see it." "I see it now," he said quietly. The evening ended with cautious optimism. My family was trying, even if the wounds were still fresh. Progress, not perfection. Driving home, I felt lighter, not because they'd apologized, though that mattered, but because I'd proven to myself that I was enough, with or without their approval. The next 3 months transformed my life completely. The Metropolitan Gallery exhibition opened to sold-out crowds. Critics praised Invisible Women as fresh, important, moving. Major publications commissioned new work. I photographed more women, elderly activists, immigrant entrepreneurs, disabled athletes, indigenous artists. Each portfolio expanded my vision of invisible strength. The book deal finalized. My publisher wanted to create a collection combining photographs with short interviews with each subject. Stories behind the images, revealing the depth of ordinary lives. Bailey became my assistant on weekends, learning photography basics while helping with shoots. Watching her enthusiasm reminded me why I'd chosen this path. My relationship with my family slowly rebuilt. My mother attended my gallery opening, tears in her eyes as she viewed my work properly for the first time. "These are beautiful," she whispered. "I'm sorry I didn't see it before." Kenneth commissioned a portrait of his family. "I want you to capture us the way you capture your subjects, authentically." Adriana asked if I'd photograph her charity gala. Not the staged shots everyone expects, real moments, the way you see things. They were trying, learning to value what they'd dismissed. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. 6 months after the award ceremony, Style and Substance magazine requested a follow-up interview. They wanted to know how my life had changed, how my family reconciliation was progressing. "Your story inspired thousands of people to pursue their passions," the reporter said. "Women have sent us letters saying you gave them courage to make difficult choices." That impact meant more than the award itself. Knowing my journey helped others validated every difficult moment. "How do you feel about your mother's initial reaction now?" the reporter asked. "The uninvitation from the reunion." I thought carefully. Honestly, I'm grateful, not for the pain, but because it clarified everything. I stopped seeking approval from people who didn't understand me. I focused on the work itself. That focus made me better. "So you don't regret anything?" "I regret the years I spent trying to be someone I wasn't, but I don't regret choosing myself. That choice led me here." The article ran with the headline, "Sienna Caldwell on Success, Family, and the Power of Choosing Yourself." It became their most shared piece of the year. My phone buzzed with a text from my mother. "I read the article. I'm proud of you, not just for your success, but for your strength." I smiled, typing back, "Thank you, that means a lot." It wasn't perfect resolution, but it was real, and that was enough. 1 year after winning the award, I stood in my new studio, a bright space downtown where I now worked full-time. My photography business was thriving. I'd hired 2 assistants and was booking projects months in advance. The second gallery exhibition was scheduled for next month, featuring new work from my Invisible Strength series. This collection included men alongside women, single fathers, elderly caregivers, disabled veterans, quiet heroes living unnoticed lives. My book had launched 3 months ago, debuting on bestseller lists. The combination of powerful images and personal stories resonated with readers everywhere. Schools were using it in photography and social studies classes. Bailey had become a talented photographer in her own right. At 16, she'd already sold several pieces and was applying to arts programs for college. Kenneth and Diane supported her completely, having learned from their mistakes with me. The family dynamics had shifted fundamentally. They no longer measured success by conventional standards alone. They asked about meaning, about passion, about authenticity. My mother called weekly, genuinely interested in my work and my life. She'd even come to several photography shoots, watching me work with quiet pride. "I understand now," she'd told me recently. "What you were chasing, it wasn't irresponsible, it was brave." That acknowledgement healed something deep inside me. On the anniversary of the award ceremony, my family hosted a celebration at Kenneth's house, the same location as the reunion I'd been uninvited from. But this gathering was different. They'd hung prints of my photographs throughout the house. My award sat prominently on the mantel. Everyone wore shirts printed with images from invisible women. "A toast," Kenneth announced, raising his glass. "To Sienna, who taught us that success comes in many forms, who showed us that choosing yourself isn't selfish, it's necessary, who proved that invisible doesn't mean insignificant." Everyone raised their glasses. "To Sienna." My mother approached afterward, pulling me aside. "Do you remember what I said about embarrassing the family?" "Yes," I replied honestly. "I was wrong about everything. You didn't embarrass us. We embarrassed ourselves by not supporting you." She paused. "But you know what? Now when people ask about my children, I talk about you first. The artist, the award winner, the one who chose courage." Tears filled my eyes. "That means everything, Mom." "You were never invisible, Sienna. We just weren't looking properly." As the celebration continued around us, I reflected on my journey. From uninvited embarrassment to celebrated artist. From invisible to seen, on my own terms. The reunion I'd missed had become irrelevant, because I'd been exactly where I needed to be, choosing myself, building my dreams, becoming visible. And that was the greatest success of all.